It was built to fly at the edge of space, higher than any Soviet fighter could climb, above every missile of its day. A camera that could read the writing on the ground from 13 miles up, over the one country no one else could see inside. The perfect spy. But 3 weeks before it ever crossed into Russia, the CIA's own scientists put 4 words on paper. 4 words the entire program chose to bury. Detection can therefore be assumed. They knew the plane could be seen. They knew a pilot could be lost. They gambled the peace of the world on it anyway. In the mid-1950s, the United States was blind. The Soviet Union was a closed country. Its bombers, its missiles, its secret cities hidden behind a border no camera could cross. Then, at a 1955 Moscow air show, a handful of Soviet bombers circled and returned, pass after pass, until Western observers counted what looked like a vast fleet. The panic had a name: the Bomber Gap. Eisenhower needed to see for himself. In November 1954, he authorized 30 aircraft, unarmed, and handed not to the Air Force but to the CIA, because he feared a military plane over Soviet soil could be read as an act of war. The machine came from a Burbank workshop called the Skunk Works, and from one man, Kelly Johnson, a glider bolted to a jet with 80-foot wings, no ejection seat, and a cockpit where an unprotected pilot's blood would boil at altitude. They tested it on a dry Nevada lakebed later called Area 51, where it first flew by accident during a taxi test. "I had no intentions whatsoever of flying," the test pilot said. And it worked. Cruising above 70,000 feet, it slipped over the Soviet Union in the summer of 1956 and brought back the truth. The Bomber Gap was a fiction. Dozens of the aircraft, not the hundreds America had feared. But the same cameras caught something else: Soviet fighters clawing upward and falling back, unable to reach it. The plane was invulnerable, or so everyone was told. Because 3 weeks before that first flight, a CIA study had reached the opposite conclusion. Soviet radar would track the aircraft the moment it climbed. Detection can therefore be assumed. The warning was set aside. Within weeks, Moscow sent a protest naming the exact routes flown. Eisenhower said he had lost enthusiasm and asked what would happen if one came down inside Russia. He was assured no pilot would survive and nothing could be proven. He flew it 4 more years. By 1960, the window was closing. The U-2's safety had never been its altitude. It had been time before Soviet defenses caught up. And they had. New radar, new interceptors, and a new weapon. The SA-2, a missile that could finally reach the edge of space. The CIA knew. A Soviet source had revealed Moscow already held detailed intelligence on the aircraft. Still, one more flight was approved, the most ambitious ever attempted. Operation Grand Slam, a complete crossing of the Soviet Union from Pakistan to Norway. The pilot was Francis Gary Powers. On the morning of May 1st, 1960, May Day, the skies nearly empty for the holiday, Powers climbed toward the edge of space. They tracked him almost from the border. Interceptors scrambled, as many as a dozen, and not one could reach his altitude. For 4 hours he flew on, untouchable. Then, over the Sverdlovsk region, the sky detonated behind him. An SA-2 burst in a near miss at around 70,000 feet and crippled the aircraft. How many missiles flew that day is disputed to this hour, from a single salvo in the American record to 8 in Soviet accounts, to as many as 14 in some retellings. In the chaos, one of them found a pursuing Soviet fighter and killed its pilot, a man mistaken for the enemy over his own country. Powers was spinning, falling, pinned against the canopy, unable to reach his ejection seat. He blew the hatch, was thrown half out, and dangled by his oxygen hose until it snapped and his chute opened. He came down alive, on Soviet soil. And behind him lay the one thing Eisenhower had been promised could never exist: the wreckage, the camera, and the film. Washington did not know its pilot was alive. Still believing, as Eisenhower had been assured, that no pilot could survive and nothing be proven, the government reached for a cover story prepared in advance. On May 3rd, NASA announced a weather research plane had strayed off course over Turkey after its pilot reported trouble with his oxygen. To sell it, a U-2 was repainted in NASA markings, given a false serial number, and shown to the press. It was a lie built on a corpse that wasn't one. And Nikita Khrushchev knew it, so he let America keep talking. On May 5th, he announced only that a spy plane had been shot down inside Soviet territory, saying nothing of a living pilot or recovered wreckage. Then, on May 7th, he sprang the trap. The pilot alive, the film recovered, the route known. "We also have the pilot," he said, "who is quite alive and kicking." The cover story died on the air. Within days, the President of the United States took personal responsibility for spying on another nation, refusing to apologize, calling it a distasteful but vital necessity. Days later, the powers gathered in Paris for a summit meant to thaw the Cold War. Khrushchev demanded an apology. Eisenhower would not give one. The summit collapsed within a single day, exactly the drastic reaction Eisenhower had feared from the start. For powers came a show trial in Moscow, prosecuted by the man who had led the Soviet case at Nuremberg. On display, a hollow silver dollar concealing a poisoned needle, issued in case of capture. But he had never been ordered to use it. The sentence was 10 years. He would serve less than 2. On a cold morning in February 1962, on a bridge between Potsdam and West Berlin, Powers was walked to a white line at its center and traded, almost in the same moment, for a captured Soviet colonel named Rudolf Abel. The exchange was brokered by the American lawyer who had once defended Abel and argued he be spared execution so that one day he might be traded back. The world would later know it as Bridge of Spies. Powers came home. A Senate committee heard his account and cleared him, calling him a fine young man. But the age of the piloted spy plane was over. No American aircraft would ever again overfly the Soviet Union. The shootdown had proven what one buried warning tried to say years before. A plane that can be seen can be lost, and a lost pilot can be paraded before the world. Kelly Johnson's Skunk Works had already begun the successor, a titanium aircraft built to fly faster than a rifle bullet, above 90,000 feet. No SA-2 would ever catch it. No A-12, nor its descendant, the SR-71 Blackbird, was ever shot down, despite hundreds of attempts. But it never flew over Russia. After Powers, that was unthinkable, because something else had arrived, with no pilot to shoot down and no border to cross. Weeks after the shootdown, a satellite named Corona sent a capsule of film tumbling back from orbit, snatched from the sky by an aircraft over the Pacific. That single mission photographed more of the Soviet Union than every U-2 flight combined. The plane that flew at the edge of space had only ever been a bridge to the age of the eye that watches from beyond it. The perfect spy was never the aircraft. It was the machine that could not be shot down.